Hello, everyone. This is Devin Thorpe for the Crowdfund update. We're excited to be here today with Adam Chapnick of Asset Avenue. He's their new Chief Strategy Officer. He recently left Indiegogo, where he was employee number one. Adam, thank you very much for joining us today. We've got a lot to cover.
Thanks, Devin. I can't wait.
I was just visiting moments ago on another show with Danae Ringelman. I think you know her.
Very, very well.
Yeah.
She's one of the three brilliant founders of Indiegogo.
Yeah, great woman. I really appreciate her work. So you had an opportunity to be early on involved with Indiegogo and played a real key role in developing that company into what it is today as the largest crowdfunding site in the world. Tell us a little bit about your experience there before we jump into talking about your new role.
That was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Now, I'm hoping it'll be once out of twice in a lifetime, but it was really amazing. When we started, I joined Danae, Slava, and Eric, who were the three founders, in about the end of 2009, and Slava was in New York, Danae and Eric were in San Francisco, and I was in LA. And so we were four people in our apartments thinking about changing the world for good, and to see it go from, your kid wandering in with a dirty diaper into, a world-class organization that's making people's dreams come true and changing finance in, London, New York, San Francisco, Tokyo, Hong Kong. It's truly overwhelming. It's stunning. But the process, I'll say, was so much fun, so transformative for all of us as people too, that I found it quite intoxicating and even maybe, God forbid, addictive. And I think that's how I ended up here, because I'm excited to do it again.
So tell us a little bit about Asset Avenue. You're doing real estate investment crowdfunding. Tell us more about the platform, how and its stage of development, and where you're headed.
Yeah, I think the thing that was so exciting for me about Asset Avenue is that it was such a natural extension from that experience I was just describing at Indiegogo. At Indiegogo, we made this whole thing up. There wasn't even a word, crowdfunding, when we started, and that was one of the challenges. We were trying to figure out, how do we tell people what we see, and now that's so, I don't want to say it's universally known, because it's certainly not, but it's very widely employed and written about and embraced as one component of a future way of transacting finance, let's say. When the Jobs Act happened 2 years ago, that really sort of set the stage as what was going to be the next step, the next part of the evolution of what we'd put in motion at Indiegogo, of how we could take this crowdfunding idea and apply it to something that had been prohibited, which was, investment, equity-based crowdfunding. Indiegogo is all rewards-based. We don't transact, they. It's hard to even say, do I say we, do I say they? Now I say they. They don't transact any kind of equity in the deal between a contributor and a campaigner. It's only rewards. But with the advent of the Jobs Act, it made possible for companies to offer profit participation or equity or other kinds of financial return for participation in a company or a project or an investment. So when the Jobs Act happened, in fact, around Barack Obama in the Rose Garden, politely clapping when he signed the act, were Indiegogo business owners who had raised money for their businesses. And there was a lot of focus, it's called the Jobs Act, Jumpstart Our Business Startups. There's a lot of focus on startups. And I think it's great for startups. It's a whole new source of capital that's really disintermediating the way that funds flow into businesses, and that's wonderful for businesses. I think in the short term, at least, it's less wonderful for investors to be in angel investing. I'm in it. I think it's not that I'm against it. I think it's wonderful. But the challenge is that a lot of investors forget some of their fundamentals when they get into angel investing, and it's easy to look at a fantastic site like an AngelList or something like that and say, "Woo, I'm going to be like Tim Ferriss, and I'm going to, be $10 million from this startup because I'm going to do what Tim does," or insert other famous syndicator.
Yeah.
And everyone forgets that you need a portfolio, and 10 out of 11 businesses that you're going to invest in are statistically they're going to be worth nothing. So what I saw back when the Jobs Act happened was, I think it's great for startups. I'm looking forward to participating in that. But what I really loved was the idea that this whole other asset class that I knew I needed to get into, as you know, the head of a household, I knew I wanted to be in real estate. I have friends who are doing spectacularly well with their portfolios in real estate, but the time it took to try and figure out where am I going to invest in some, you know, residential apartment building in Dallas. Like I'm not going to take the time to figure that out. Or how do I even know if it's good? How do I learn that business when I'm doing this other business and I'm trying to raise my kids and be a good husband and all these things? And I saw then that if there was an Indiegogo for an asset class like commercial real estate, which is crowdfunding, but with an underlying hard asset to protect you, and that has a regular distribution, unlike in startups where you throw in your money and you wait and hope and hope and hope that it pays off in like an IPO or something years down the road, you have no liquidity. In real estate, it seemed like a really great opportunity to implement this investment component of the Jobs Act, of crowdfunding, where you put your money in, and you get regular distributions, and in the worst case, you have an underlying asset that's still a hedge against disaster. But maybe most of all, you can use the platform as the expert advisor you don't have and don't know where to find. So if that were possible, I thought that's where this thing really is exciting. And frankly, everybody thought I was stupid for looking at this what everybody thought was a tiny little part of the opportunity out there in the world. And I was like, tiny? This market has a T in front of it. That's a
That's
$1 trillion market. That's that's not tiny to me. So anyway, I met David, David Manshuri, who's the CEO of Asset Avenue at the time when I was doing my speaking tour, you know, that I did at Indiegogo. And he mentioned that he was, you know, working on a startup getting into doing exactly that. And I think when he said it to me, he was like, yeah, it's just in this weird little corner. It's, you know, real estate. And I was like, real estate? We got to talk. And so that's how the bond was born.
Excellent, excellent. Well, tell us a little bit more about Asset Avenue and where it is in its stage of development and how it will operate and what its focus is.
It's really new, Asset Avenue, which is what I love. You know, it's right out of the gate. It started a couple months ago, and I just joined a few weeks ago, officially. But what it is exactly what I've been describing. It's a way to fix that pain point. The way I relate to it, and this is just how I relate to the world, is always by like, what is the change that this company is going to effect in the world? And the way I see it that's so attractive to me is that it helps people take care of their families. You know, that's why it matters to me. It's not because, oh, it'll get me great, you know, double-digit internal, you know, IRR, or it's not because of, though that's great. The reason it's so meaningful is that it'll help people like me take care of their families in a way that they just didn't have a way to do before, because it gives access to professionally vetted deals. We have this incredible team of professional real estate, you know, career professionals who have underwritten in the billions of dollars of real estate. And my colleague Kevin Arabaka is responsible for having developed an incredible algorithm for underwriting risk. So he puts that to work for you, essentially, so that you know that everything on our site has already passed through that filter. 95% of stuff that we see doesn't make it onto the site. So you still have to, you know, research, and we provide a lot of facts and data for you to research and make your own decision. But you do that with the understanding that you're picking among the vetted ones. They're the ones that already passed through the Arabaka model. So there's that. Where we're going, I think, is we're thinking really big. And I think what we're trying to see is the places in this market that aren't just a way for investors to invest in opportunities, which is wonderful and great, but also ways to serve people who might be looking in the debt side. We're looking, in other words, in possibly serving on the debt side in a more meaningful way. We're looking at how to offer a mix of equity and debt as opportunities for people, for all of the different benefits that those things offer without getting too granular. But bottom line, we're looking to make it a global impact, and that's what I did with my Indiegogo, family, and I can't wait for us to do it here. I think there's a lot more complicated crap here because you have to deal with all of the SEC laws and everything, but it always reminds me of, there's two things that I always think of. One is what I call the Captain Kirk model of entrepreneurism. Do you want to hear what that is?
Yes, we've got to hear what the Captain Kirk model of entrepreneurship.
So if you're a fan of Star Trek, as I hope you are, you know that in virtually every episode of the original, there's a moment where Captain Kirk is on the bridge and the Enterprise is being pursued by a Klingon or a Romulan or whatever, and one engine has been shot out and all is lost, and Scotty, give me more power, I can't give you more power, and right at that point, up ahead, inevitably, there's something like a magnetic minefield. Oh no! And all the crew turns to the captain and says, Captain, it's a magnetic minefield. And what does Kirk always say? He doesn't say, oh no, all is lost. He says, head into the minefield. They'd have to be crazy to follow us in there. And I say, that's an entrepreneur, right? You see a minefield as fantastic opportunity to distance yourself from the competition. And that, to me, is the gift of the SEC, right? You can't say this. You can't do that. If you can navigate that, you're in good shape. So I always like when I see a very complex obstacle like that because it helps me feel like Captain Kirk.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Adam, what kinds of projects will you be investing in? Is this single-family homes, multifamily, kind of condo developments, apartments, shopping centers, office buildings? Where are you playing?
It's all classes of what's called commercial real estate. So and for me, I know enough to be dangerous. Coming into this, I'm a bad commercial real estate investor prior to coming here. I have a few of this and a few of those here and there, and a mix of performance personally. But so even I was a little confused about what counts as commercial versus residential. But basically, by the accepted conventions, that more than 4 units of residential is a commercial property. So anything commercial, and we're not going to do anything that's in construction. Completely construction only. And then on the debt side, we're working right now mostly with whole loans as opposed to fractional participation, if that's not too granular for everybody.
Okay, that's
but
true.
Essentially, the most important thing I think about it is that irrespective of what the characteristics of the property are, what we're providing and what we're trying to provide is access for people who might have 10 grand to do something with, but that traditionally wouldn't have been able to get into a deal like X without 250. So we want these like premier deals that are so exciting that you can't believe you're in, and let our community be one of those big millionaires that traditionally the operator would have in his Rolodex. Like, we together will be one of those guys. So you can be that with us, and that's what's exciting. Not so much, here's like a tiny little flip opportunity in Reseda. Though nothing against that, but that's not the promise.
Yeah.
What's that?
I say that's someone else's play. That's not your play.
Right.
Well, fantastic. Adam, it's great to meet you. Great to learn more about Asset Avenue. And tell us now, before we go, where people can go to learn more about how they can invest with you.
Well, for your people, I would say just email me directly. Forget about info, forget about anything. Just email me. I'm Adam at Asset Avenue. I would love to talk to you, and if I'm too stupid to answer your questions, I'll give you someone who's a true expert.
All righty. Thank you very much, Adam. It's a pleasure to meet you. Let's do some good.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, thanks, Devin. Take care.